everyone. I'm here again with another designer chat session. Today I'm sitting with JD Graffam of Simple Focus out of Tennessee. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm great. How are you, Gene?
Awesome, doing good. Listen, man, I saw the Memphis Music Hall of Fame website you launched. You guys looked like you were pretty proud of that.
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah, real proud of it. It turned out all right.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about it. Like, how did you get it? How did you do it? And why are you proud of it? But
All
let's
right.
start with how'd you get the project in the first place?
Well, Memphis is a great city for music history, so I mean, there's lots of opportunities to get involved in something special involving the history of the Memphis music scene. So that was just being in Memphis is a big part of that. The Memphis Music Hall of Fame is a project of an organization that's been around Memphis for a while called the Rock and Soul Museum.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the Rock and Soul Museum decided, we're about 40 years late, but let's go ahead and put together a Memphis Music Hall of Fame because we've got, hundreds of artists who would deserve to be inducted into something like that because of the influence that Memphis has had on,
I can't
music.
I can't think of a single one off the top of
Yeah,
my
no, no, there's
head.
you really have to struggle.
Right.
There's this Presley guy.
Well, you've got this great imagery to work with, and you've got this great
Oh yeah.
subject matter. So how did you approach building a site like that that's got such rich um, visual history, audio history? I mean, how did you approach that?
Well, the short answer is that we approached it just like we would a museum. In a lot of ways, since the Memphis Music Hall of Fame is a museum, but it's an online museum, we wanted to call on those, museum-like experiences. So when you are reading about a particular artist, um, what we wanted to do was make you feel like you were in that artist's world and that their page was like a room dedicated to them with their style and their flavor. Visually speaking, I mean, we were able to pull images from family collections, uh, museums, archives, and things like that. We worked with an intellectual property person
Oh, wow.
who actually helped make sure that we're totally legit and legal on the imagery. It's a lot harder to find, pictures of Elvis that you're allowed to use than you would think.
So were you responsible for that at Simple Focus?
Well, Simple Focus was given these stories that were written about each artist from these professional, well-known
Mm-hmm.
authors. And what we did is we read through the stories and got a sense of the artist, and then we just sort of did some reconnaissance on Google image search
Mm.
and said, we'd like an image sort of like this for this section, and an image like this for the header, and an image like this for the footer. And
Okay.
then we basically turned them loose and said, what can you go find? And she came back with a lot of really good stuff.
Okay.
Uh, in some instances, we're able to find the image on Google image search and actually end up getting the rights to use that image as well.
Okay. That's interesting. So how did you? I mean, it's a very mosaic looking like tiles. How did you
Yeah.
come to that? Is that just part of the thinking of it in terms of a museum layout, or?
Partly, the designer for Simple Focus that came up with that is named John Mears. He's super talented, and what we set out to do in the beginning was develop a museum again, that was forward thinking, that was optimized for not just today, but in the days going forward in the years ahead. And so our focus and emphasis in the user interface was going to be on making something that was sort of touch friendly, because in a couple of years, this website's actually going, this, and it's powered by WordPress, in fact, is
Okay.
actually going to power the actual museum.
Oh, really?
So this style is going to make its way into an interactive physical space. And so the thinking was, let's take sort of a tablet first approach.
Okay.
I mean, we drew inspiration from the new Windows look and feel,
Yep,
or
I definitely get that.
whatever it is that it's called.
Yeah.
But the idea was we just wanted big dumb buttons to click, and so
Okay.
or to touch. And so we started with that in mind, and we sort of designed the iPad view first, and went down from there and went up from there.
Okay. Yeah, that's sort of you don't hear about that approach very often. It's always iPhone up. You
Yeah.
know? Oh, wow. Okay. So what about that nav? I mean, you've got you say you designed it so it's like really like touch friendly. And I just
Yeah, yeah, that's where it came from.
Okay. All right. Cool. So how do you? I mean, how did? All right. So this is going to power the museum eventually.
Yeah, that's
Explain
not all
that.
figured out yet, but
Okay.
the general idea is that the stories and the imagery and eventually the music and the videos that are all going to be housed on the website will all be content managed in a single place.
Okay.
And then we'll create views for 40-inch flat screen, touchscreen TVs and
Oh
wall
wow.
projections and iPad kiosks and things like that.
So right now this place doesn't exist in a physical space. It's just the website, but you're building the physical space.
Yeah, I mean that's on the radar for the museum to do in the future.
Cool.
No plans have been released, but what's exciting for us is that's something we can look forward to.
Right. Okay. Um, sorry, I was just trying to take a look there. All right. So you started out. You say you started out from a tablet perspective. Why did you go? And it's responsive. Why did you go the responsive route? What made you make that choice from a tablet, up and then iPhone down and go responsive, as opposed to maybe just making an iPad specific site and then a desktop browser specific site? Just curious where you came from.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a decision we thought long and hard about because um, as popular as responsive approach is these days, there are definitely some performance considerations with that.
Hmm.
And in all honesty, this was the simplest approach with the timeline and budget we were given.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, down the road, that strategy may change as we need to scale this up to a 40-inch, touch screen,
Right.
and then all of a sudden we might start coming up with some different views for mobile or things like that. I mean, there's some challenges with responsive, specifically with page speed and things like that. We want this thing to feel as snappy as possible. But we're working on those. We've launched the website. It's still got a long punch list, a 2 feet long punch list in Basecamp of things that we've got left to do. So
Cool.
it's still a work in progress, and that's sort of a moving target. Whether to stick with responsive or start switching to custom views.
That's interesting, and I figured it was something along those lines, especially when you started talking about the fact that it will eventually be more. People talk about responsive or choosing responsive or mobile as sort of like this will be the finished product forever. But
Yeah.
it's as we know, projects usually don't ever end.
Yeah,
Things
well,
like this specifically.
well, this one specifically will not end because this is the inaugural year of inductees. There are 25 inductees on the website. We've only designed 10 of those stories, so we've got 15 more stories that are going to be coming out over the next 3 months.
Okay.
In addition to that, in 2013, there will be another round of inductees. And in
Right.
2014, another round of inductees. I mean, there are 300 or 400 inductees sitting in the queue waiting to get onto this website. So
Right.
if your favorite one's not on there yet, don't worry,
Yeah.
they'll be there soon.
Right. Right. And those are interesting design considerations as you add more and more and more. Cool.
Yeah, well, the thing is, when 2013 inductees roll around, we're going to have to change the navigation.
Yep.
To accommodate for navigating multiple years, and so
Right.
there's going to be challenges each year with adding new content, and then the style of the content's going to change, and
Yep.
some artists may wind up scrolling horizontal as opposed to vertical. I mean, there's all these different considerations that we just don't know what we're going to face until we get the story about the artist and really begin to understand their history and what their take is and
Cool.
their style.
Awesome. Well, JD, thanks. It sounds like a really great project, and you have every right to be proud.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing I did want to make sure that that you knew about with the project is that it's amazing. The last 3 weeks of the project, the team here at Simple Focus put in a combined 300 hours, which was
Oh,
really painful for us. But we don't like to work overtime. We don't like to work late. But occasionally something special like this comes along and everybody gets on board. And I just wanted to take this opportunity, if you don't mind, to tell my team thank you.
absolutely.
Because there were 7 people. Unfortunately, one of them got sick with kidney stones at the last minute. He wasn't able to participate in the very last push, but he was there. I mean, Scotty, Casey, Calvin, John, Patrick. These guys are amazing and really pushed this thing out. Over the last 3 or 4 days, just working around the clock. And as ashamed I am of that having happened, I'm super proud of the team for coming together and pulling it together at the last minute.
Well, that's awesome. You hear that, guys?
Yeah.
Awesome. You're awesome. All right,
Thanks,
man.
Gene.
Thank you.
All right.